It's a real pleasure to see all of you here tonight to help us celebrate the scholarship recognition. I think this is the 21st such event, although the first one, I think, live and in person for the last 3 years or so it makes this kind of special night. I'm truly delighted to be here with you so we can take a moment and celebrate together the good friends who've been supporting the students who are here and the education those students are receiving at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Just want to be clear about that. Unfortunately, I have to attend an event, which I was just mentioning, already 15 minutes late for, so I'm going to dash out right after my remarks, so please forgive me for that. But it was important for me to be able to come and share just a few thoughts, and really my thanks to all of you who've been so supportive of our students. So thank you for that. I must admit that at Hopkins, and certainly my own career here, I don't think we take very much time to pause and celebrate too often, take that breath. Coming out of COVID, we were running really hard during that time and since that time, but that's why tonight, beyond just being the first one in person, that we can actually just take a moment, breathe a little bit, enjoy each other's company, and remember just how important the School of Medicine is to the United States and the kind of leaders that we produce here and the friends who help support us. So that's why this makes it so wonderful. I was just talking to some of the wonderful students, and I know one is thinking about already leaving because May is coming soon, and we'll be bidding adieu to the students of the class of 2023, just right as we're welcoming, the new class of 2027, which makes Roy feel particularly old, Roy, 2027. Yeah. When you think about that, it makes you also give a little bit of pause. It gives me the pause, at least, when we have to say, I think the total, I'm looking at Roy when I say this, the total cost of attendance per year is $100,000, roughly speaking, per year. So that gives me pause. If I was a entering medical student, that'd probably give me chest pain to think about that. But I know that it's important to give a hand up. I happen to have been a medical student, college student too, but certainly a medical student that was a scholarship student. I know how it changed my life, what that meant to me, and that for my family. So for those of you who are supporting our students, thank you for that. This last year, I think we'll have awarded $19 million in scholarships to our students, 15 million of which came from generous friends and donors like some of you sitting right here. So thank you for that. That said, which is kind of a staggering thought, even though it's 19 million, that doesn't come close to the amount of support we need for the fabulous medical students that we have. And despite the long history of excellence of this School of Medicine and the students that come from it, we still now these days struggle to make sure we matriculate the best medical students, which is what we need, what society needs of us. We need the fabulous students to come here. And why is it that we struggle yet? Because Roy and his team for many years have done a survey of those students who were admitted but decided to go somewhere else. And what was the number one reason they didn't come to Johns Hopkins? Financial aid. And on some level, that makes me very sad if that was the primary reason. And so we just have to do better, and that's really on me. Hopefully I can convince you it's somewhat on all of you as well to do that, because we want to be able to meet our obligation. While we don't have a specific demographic of our class we want to admit, whether that's gender or ethnicity or race or socioeconomic status, we want to admit the best medical students who are going to contribute the way this school has always contributed to society. But we also need to make sure we have a class that is as diverse as the communities that we serve, that the United States needs to have served, and the kind of science that we put forward, the diversity of science and input that needs to happen. That's what we're after. And I know some of you have seen in the news, several of our peer organizations, peer medical schools have tasked themselves with trying to tackle this issue. One in New York, for example, with tuition free. And by the way, that is a fantastic thing to do, and I laud them for the ability to do that. We have a different view and a different approach because tuition-free is fantastic, but and maybe there's some equality to that because every student gets it. That means every student who's extremely wealthy and comes from wealthy families also gets it. I think our tact, by the way, that's tuition doesn't cover the cost of living in New York City, by the way, which is worth another tuition probably. But our approach is really I think a much more equitable approach is to try to help those students who need the most help, whose families need the most help to be able to, so that they can be debt-free, because the students who come from very wealthy families are likely going to be debt-free. So we need to help those students who otherwise need that support, that hand up, like what I received. So this initiative, I just want to be very clear, is one of the highest priorities for me in my role here at Hopkins, because the students, of course, I mean, this is a medical school, for God's sake, so medical students matter a ton. But the students here really, in many ways, right, are the lifeblood of this institution, because that's who you are, what we do. The great medical students here also have oftentimes wanted to come to the residency programs of Johns Hopkins, and those residents who also want to then go into one of our fellowship programs, from whom we often get our great faculty, some of here. So it is a virtuous cycle, I think, that we are trying to continue to perpetuate, and that's my job. So our goal is ultimately in the relative near term to get to $200 million endowment for our debt-free initiative from a coalition of folks. Our friends here, philanthropists elsewhere, donors that we can look to support us and who understand what the goals and missions of this medical school are and how unique they are because of what the history of this school has been, is to change the course of medical education, which happened 100-odd years ago, and it's what we're doing now. And we have to be able to do that. So that's our contract with society to be able to deliver that to them. So to all of you who've been helping us in that path, that mission, thank you very much. I don't know who's online with us. I don't know how many we have, but I wanted to in particular thank all of you. And if Bill and Joanne Conway happen to be joining us, thank you very much, Bill and Joanne. They have been tremendous supporters for years of this School of Medicine and many initiatives, this one in particular. They've also supported the School of Nursing for scholarships. Their dedication to Hopkins is almost unrivaled, so thank you very much, Bill and Joanne. So each year, we highlight one of, oh, by the way, I think Bill and Joanne supported a medical student here is here tonight. I think that is true. Adrian Jimenez, and Adrian may be sharing a story with us tonight, so thank you, Adrian. So each year in this event, we tend to highlight 2 scholarships that have made a profound impact on the lives of those students. And the Class of 1994 scholarship is one such fund, and has a very new, it is a relatively new scholarship, so not only is it helping now, but it's going to have generations of people it's going to help. So thank you, Class of 94, for that. So as I understand it, there's a remarkable story, apparently, behind the establishment of this scholarship, and Dr. Linda Yao, who's the Class of 1994 representative, will tell us about that journey. And as Linda makes her way to the podium, I just want to thank, again, all of you for your support of Johns Hopkins, of these wonderful medical students, and for the promise we can deliver to the future students together. So thank you very much for your attention. Thanks for coming tonight. Linda?
Can you hear me? Thank you, Dr. DeWeese. I am thrilled to be able to represent the fabulous class of 1994, and I am humbled that our class was able to fully fund our scholarship within 21 months of brainstorming it at our 25th reunion in June of 2019, which was actually the last in-person reunion before the pandemic. Actually, Chad, you were there in the back room at Roy's, right? At our class dinner, we talked about how we had 121 students entering in the fall of 1990, 45 women and 76 men from 68 different undergraduate institutions who eventually went into 35 different specialties. We talked about the goal of Hopkins reducing the debt of its medical students. Initially, we wanted to raise $40,000. My classmate, Jason Coe, said, "Why don't we fund a scholarship?" And I said, "Oh, okay, we could try." While some of this may have been the influence of the open bar at Roy's. The idea actually did take hold, and we began brainstorming. Many of us, including myself, were scholarship students, just like Dr. Deweese said. A large deciding factor for me to come to Baltimore was actually that I needed almost $100,000 less in loans than my second choice medical school, Harvard. The scholarships that Hopkins Financial Aid Office put together for students like myself helped relieve the worry of long-term debt. So when we were in a position at our 25th reunion to fund a scholarship, we jumped on the opportunity to come together as a class to do one unexpected benefit of the pandemic, and maybe the same for all of you, was that we met more often virtually than we ever did in person. Our classmate, Michael Rock, who's an emergency medicine physician in Minnesota, established the COVID Lounge, where we shared our clinical experiences and struggles on Zoom over a happy hour, virtually. We exchanged many emails on the class listserv, where my colleagues and classmates, Matt Wheatley, Boyd Gillespie, and Jason Coe, who can't be here tonight, joined me in challenging our class to match dollar for dollar to raise the last $25,000 to fully fund the scholarship. With 49 separate donors, 2 of whom are here, many of whom gave more than once, we fully funded our class scholarship by March 2021, which is the fastest an alumni class has funded a scholarship at Hopkins. We in the class of 1994 are confident that you, like us, will have tremendous appreciation for our medical education and all the experiences in clinical care, research, and scholarship at Hopkins. There are faculty among us who tonight that we thank for their leadership and mentorship in all of these endeavors. You, like us, will have stories of interesting cases and long nights of patient care. I still remember my first rotation in internal medicine on the Barker firm of the Osler Medical Service, as well as the years as a resident on Osler 3 on the Janeway firm. I learned 2 very important things from my mentor, Dr. Fred Brancati. Always wash your hands in front of the patient, and never walk through the crowded clinic waiting room on your way to lunch. I still apply these 2 principles today. I am fortunate to still be in touch with my many classmates and residency friends throughout my years in private practice, and I refer many patients and friends to Hopkins for the first-rate care given here. I am very grateful for the scholarship support I received, which allowed me to work in primary care. In fact, when I joined my current practice, Foxhall Internist, in 1999, the senior physician, Dr. Oscar Mann, was actually the brother of my first internal medicine attending, Dr. John Mann here. Many of the lessons in resiliency I learned at Hopkins while a student and a resident are applied every day in running a medical practice. It would be an understatement to say that Hopkins had a profound influence in my career, and I'm deeply grateful to serve as the class of 1994 representative and to have had a small part in endowing the class of 1994 scholarship. The inaugural class of 1994 scholar is not able to be with us this evening. In her absence, I am delighted to introduce Adrienne Jimenez, one of the many recipients of the Conway Scholarships at Johns Hopkins. Let's give a warm welcome to Adrienne.
So thank you again, Dr. Yao, and a really big thank you to you and your classmates for endowing the class of 1994 scholarship. As a Conway scholar and a soon-to-be grad, I think it's a bit difficult to say exactly how impactful this whole experience of being a scholarship recipient has been, but hopefully by sharing a little bit about my journey and the things that I've been able to accomplish here at Hopkins, I can give you all a sense of how important this has been for both me and my family. By way of background, I'm originally from Silver Spring, Maryland, so not too far, but I grew up mostly in Northern Virginia. My father's an HVAC technician. He fixes, maintains air conditioning units. My mom works in sales at Verizon. I have 2 younger sisters who are both very art, creative oriented, much more so than myself. So I was the one kid that was always a huge math, science nerd. So I came here to Hopkins undergraduate to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with that. And thankfully for me here at Hopkins, there were lots of great programs and initiatives to expose neuroscience majors, which I was, to clinical neurology and neurosurgery. And, shadowing some neurosurgeons, having some of those experiences, I think was really formative for me. I was really, fascinated by the specialty. I think this ability to develop a tangible operative skill set to help really sick patients, I think that really fascinated me, and it was really something that prompted me to decide I had to learn more about this. So I stayed on here at Hopkins for medical school. I had, I've been really lucky to have some great mentors along the way. Specifically want to give a shout out to Dr. Raj Mukherjee, who, being an amazing surgeon, just an amazing person, he's really gone out of his way to show me the ropes, both research and in terms of teaching me in the OR, and I really can't thank him enough. But the department generally has just been amazing, really passionate educators, really amazing human beings. So it's been a real privilege to be a part of all that work. Thanks to all the guidance and mentorship I've received, I was able to match into neurosurgery residency. For me, the next steps are 7 years at Columbia, New York. So I couldn't be more excited, and I can't wait to get back to the big city and be part of the amazing work going on in that department. So at the end of the day, I've been here a few years. I've met some really incredible people, been part of some really amazing work, and I think that none of this really would have been possible without the support of Mr. and Mrs. Conway specifically. Coming from a working class immigrant family, I think that my parents first heard about me being a scholarship recipient. It was obviously really amazing news to them. They were incredibly ecstatic, and I think having that kind of financial support was really moving for all of us. It was really important at this stage in my life, and I know I speak for all the scholarship recipients when we say that our ability to move forward and to have the futures we do at our kind of disposals, really, a lot of it's due to the support we've received from our donors. So I think that I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to every single donor who's funded a scholarship, and specifically to Mr. and Mrs. Conway for their taking a chance on me and the other Conway scholars. So thanks to them, and hope everybody has a great evening.
My name is Tola Woshika, and I'm an MD PhD student here and proud to be a U Scholar. I've been so fortunate to pursue my career here at Hopkins, where I have the chance to walk the same halls as so many giants in science and medicine. During my early days here, my work often brought me to one particular hall on the 7th floor of the trailer building, where there is a plaque affixed to the wall that always caught my eye. From it, 3 large phrases stood out. They read, "The privilege of discovery," "The joy of doing scientific battle," and "The drama of the lecture." A closer look at the plaque revealed that these were Dr. David Yu's words as he spoke on discovery, mentorship, and teaching, the rewards of being a medical researcher. These words resonated with me as they captured so much of what I hope to experience in my own career. Though I never had the privilege of meeting Dr. Yu, his words continue to inspire me and encourage me as I pursue a physician scientist career. Thank you, Dr. Yu, for sharing your husband with the world and with students here at Hopkins, and thank you for supporting my education through this scholarship.
Hi, my name is Lily Armstrong Davies. I'm a second-year graduate student in the Medical and Biological Illustration program here at Johns Hopkins. I was honored to receive the Frank H. Netter Memorial Scholarship Award in my first year. Following in the footsteps of former award recipients, including many of our faculty that I admire so much, has been incredibly humbling. Within my program, I particularly enjoyed the anatomical and surgical illustration courses. Francine, your father's illustrations served as an excellent reference and inspiration while learning to draw and paint anatomical structures. I'm looking forward to continuing my career in academic medical illustration at Mount Sinai in New York City, and my goal is to use the skills I've developed here at Johns Hopkins to bring clarity to the public, patients, and students as they learn science and medicine. Francine, thank you again. I'm deeply grateful for the Netter Award and your generosity.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Ospino. I will soon be entering my 4th year of medical school. Dr. Crawley, Mr. and Mrs. Conway, I cannot express the depth of my gratitude for your unwavering support throughout my medical journey. As I reflect on my time at the Johns Hopkins, I'm, I'm overwhelmed with emotions and appreciation for your generosity and immense privilege of being part of this outstanding institution. My time at the Johns Hopkins has been professionally invigorating and personally enriching. My research year in otolaryngology under the guidance of Dr. Alexander Hillel was a transformative experience that left an indelible mark on my life. The opportunity to exercise my skills as a biomedical engineer and learn cutting-edge lab techniques introduced me to a world of endless possibilities. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to present my work in front of the brightest minds in the field of otolaryngology. But more importantly, I forged long-lasting friendships with mentors that I now deeply cherish. A part of my academic life, I proposed to my partner during an incredible trip to Iceland, and we married last year. Your scholarship was instrumental in making our marriage a reality. I cannot express how grateful I am for the financial security that it has brought to us. Your support has not only helped me achieve my professional goals, but also enabled me to start a beautiful family. Dr. Crawley, Mr. and Mrs. Conway, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your trust and generosity. I will promise to pay it forwardly by making a positive impact on the life of my future patients. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maureen Rakvik, and I am the proud recipient of the Feinsilver Memorial Scholarship for the third time this year. Mrs. Blumenthal, we've met over Zoom, and I'm so grateful you traveled from Connecticut to be here with us tonight. Becoming a doctor has been a lifelong dream of mine, and your generosity has not only helped me realize this dream, but has made my education at a world-class institution like Johns Hopkins possible. Over the last 4 years, I've been mentored by Drs. Betagauda and Mukherjee in the Department of Neurosurgery, and under their tutelage, I have studied how demographic, genetic, and treatment variables influence outcomes in patients with a wide variety of brain tumors. The access to Johns Hopkins resources and faculty has not only allowed me to explore this fascinating field, but has also allowed me to make a tangible impact on the lives of patients with brain tumors. These experiences solidified my resolve to specialize in neurosurgery, and I'm super excited to be entering and beginning my training in this incredible field at the University of Maryland this summer. Mrs. Blumenthal, again, thank you so much for your support with my future.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pooja Vikraman. I'm an international student, and I'm glad to be sharing a story that I'm sure a lot of international students share, and probably also all the other scholars. But I matriculated into the School of Medicine last fall, so I'm a first year, after receiving a bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering and biochemistry and molecular biology at Mercer University. It's in Georgia, if no one has heard of it. I was born in Chennai, India, and to parents who experienced the restrictive nature of the Indian schooling system and wanted, a better life for their kids. They wanted to have me in an environment that fostered innovation and critical thinking rather than stifling creativity. And so the two of my parents went on an arduous journey to end up right here. It was challenging to cram our family of four into a one-room basement to get by on rent when we first got here. But after years and years, we persevered and have made it to a place where even coming to medical school is an opportunity and a possibility for me. So we moved to the UK for a few years, then to Toronto, Canada, and finally we ended up here. And I just cannot express how thankful I am to have the opportunity to even be here in the first place. Throughout my years in all those three places, I was able to investigate different subjects, different fields, and really figure out what I was interested in. And it ended up being medicine, thankfully. And I also was able to fall in love with meeting new people, learning their stories, and exploring new places. So these experiences, however integral they were, I want to extend my full gratitude to Dr. Alter and Dr. Lietman for allowing me to be here today. I actually am also interested in pediatrics, so it is an honor to be funded by Dr. Alter, who is such a giant in the field and an expert. So I'm the first in my family to be able to attend medical school and even be a part of the medical field. So with the support of Dr. Wiener, Dr. Alter, I can tell you that this is like changing my family's life and my life. And it's opening the doors for my cousins, my friends, and further people in my family. So a huge thanks to both of you and to everyone in this room for funding the scholarship recipients and being a part of our journey.
Hi. Can you hear me? You know, it's really hard to follow the students, right? I probably should just sit down, but I've been asked to give some closing remarks, and also I recognize that I'm standing between you and dinner, so I have 2 strikes against me. However, I just want to, before I talk about some remarks, want to just mention briefly a little bit about me. I'm Roy Ziegelstein. I'm Vice Dean for Education, and this is very personal to me because, like Dr. DeWeese and like many of our scholarship recipients, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for generous donors. I grew up in Washington Heights, New York. My elementary school, Adrian, is right across the street from where you're going to be doing your residency. My mother was a 4-foot 8-inch tall cafeteria lady in that school that's right across Broadway from where you're going to do your residency. My father was an immigrant. He became a dry cleaner. We had very little money. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, let alone medical school. And again, I wouldn't have been able to do either without scholarship donations. So this is personal to me. So I feel okay about making some comments to you. So one morning in the winter of 2007, a medical student named Joel Salinas ran to a code blue at the University of Miami Hospital. A man had collapsed there in cardiac arrest. Joel never met the man before, but seconds later, the 2 of them were linked, not just by Salinas's medical responsibility to try to save him, but also by an incredible fluke of Salinas's brain that allowed him to intimately experience what the man was feeling. You see, Salinas has a condition that's called mirror touch synesthesia. It's a condition that means basically that when he sees another person feel something, he feels it too. This is a real condition. Here's a quote from Joel Salinas that he wrote in his book Mirror Touch that was published in 2017 about that event I just described. Quote, "I felt my back pressed firmly against the linoleum floor, my limp body buckling under each compression, my chest swelling with each artificial breath squeezed into me through a tube, a hollow, slipping sensation. I was dying, but I was not. Unfortunately, after 30 minutes of attempted resuscitation, the patient was pronounced dead." Salinas went on in his book to note, quote, "I lay there with him, dead. The absence of sensations in my own body, the absence of movement, the absence of breath, a pulse, any kind of feeling in my body, nothing but a deafening absence," unquote. It's actually not thought that Joel Salinas' condition is abnormal, believe it or not, but rather an exaggeration of normal, something that's hardwired into all of our brains, the ability to mirror or simulate what others are doing and feeling. In short, the ability to demonstrate empathy. One could say that Joel Salinas demonstrates empathy on steroids. I'm going to go from that story to something that troubled me as a medical student, and then I'm going to try to wrap it all up. This thing actually troubles me even to this day as a cardiologist, and that is, if in most cases severe aortic stenosis is due to aging, why does it only affect 3 or 4% of the population over the age of 75? It doesn't make any sense. So what does all this have to do with the reason we're here tonight? If you ask people, what is it that prompts people to give? What makes people philanthropic? What makes people donate money to scholarships? Some will say, that's a silly question. If people have means, if people have money, they'll give. Then why is it that only a small percentage of individuals with means are philanthropic? Why is it that only a small percentage give to scholarship aid? I still don't know what leads some people to develop severe aortic stenosis, so please don't ask me. But I think I know what leads all of you in the room to be philanthropic and to donate to support our students. It's extreme empathy. I think every one of you who have generously contributed to student scholarships have exaggerated empathy. I think each of you, like Joel Salinas, has a form of mirror touch synesthesia, and you can go home now and tell that to your friends and family. But more than most people, you're able to reach outside of yourself and walk in our students' shoes so that when they tell their story tonight, you can really feel it. I believe that. You're able to see that some students, like myself many years ago, may have the ability to attend medical school, but not the means without you. And that empathy, I believe, is what drives you to give. I can only imagine the special feeling that each of you has when you meet your scholarship recipient tonight. I feel this way every time that we have this event in this room. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for having your exaggerated sense of empathy. I want to thank you for your generosity. I also want to thank our students, our amazing students. Thank you for inspiring all of us. Thank you for showing us the future of medicine here tonight. It's a future that's incredibly bright. And finally, thank you to the team that helped set this event up. Thanks especially to Helen. Helen, raise your hand. While Helen would be the first to say that we're far from meeting our financial needs of all of our students, it's actually, I think, evenings like this that she helped arrange, and people like all of you and those that are on whatever, Zoom or Teams or, I don't know, live stream, who will get Johns Hopkins closer to our goal. Thanks especially to those who joined virtually, because you chose to join virtually and we're not going to feed you. The recorded portion of this event is now over, and you will be invited to the buffet dinner shortly. But again, I really wanted to thank all of you for your generosity and extreme empathy. Thank you.